What's going on, Q Squad? Welcome to All Things QTV, where we merge grilling, cooking, and sports all up under one umbrella on one channel. The episode we're talking about physicality in basketball. Last night, we saw the Detroit Pistons and the Minnesota Timberwolves got into a little bit of scuffle, but the whole game was kind of chippy, kind of physical, more physical than normal. And so this morning I woke up and I checked a couple of I heard a couple of sports talk radios and saw a couple of shows on TV discussing should the NBA bring back a little more physicality. And the question came up because over the last maybe 8 to 10 years, a lot of sports pundits was complaining that the game was too soft. Um, you hear Stephen A. Smith go on TV, they'll throw you out the game for having bad breath and saying these things, basically alluding to the fact that the game is too soft. So him and Perk was going back and forth about bringing more physicality back, and Perk was saying they need to, and Stephen A. jumped on the side of they don't need to because that's not what the fans want to see. It's not good. Nobody wants to see a low scoring game. And Molly chimed in and she had something to say. And she said, you can't have it both ways. One minute y'all say the game is too soft. The next minute you're saying that you want physicality. And it brings up the point of what do the fans really want to see? Do we want to see maybe not so much like 80s and early 90s basketball, but late 90s, early 2000 basketball, where it was you go to the hole and you get bumped and the ref will let it go, versus what we're seeing now. I mean, every time they look at each other, they blowing the whistle. So I was sitting back thinking, and I know what I want to watch. I want to see players actually play physical. I want to see players um, not get into fights, but get into each other's face. I want to see a little trash talking. I want to see uh, you go to the rack, you may hit that floor. No easy layups. I want to see the shot blockers back in the game where they protected the rim. I want to see the point guards that was able to put a little hand on the side of the offensive player to prevent him from getting in the lane easily. I want to see less 3 pointers. You know, and so I bring up the question because when I was watching all these different shows today, everybody had a different perspective. But that wasn't the problem. The problem is that most of the people that was opposed the game getting a little more physical are the same ones complaining about the game being soft. So I asked the question. Sometimes we say what we want, but then we get what we want. And so you say, well, what they were doing was some of them was trying to imply that, well, they always say the game is too soft. But then they'll turn around and say, well, you complain about it being too soft, but then when you see a little physicality, you have a problem with that as well. And it's a puzzling question of where's the happy medium? Where do we find that comfort zone where it's enough physicality, where it's not to the point where it's like football, you know, without it being to the point where it was back in the Pistons days and the early Bulls and the New York Knicks and the Boston Celtics and the LA Laker days. But at the same time, the game, instead of the game being 140 to 137, maybe the game be around 115 to 110 or 120 to 107. Just to the point where it's enough physicality where players just can't get to the hole easily, penetrate. The players just can't come off screens and like a Steph Curry just always just coming off screens without getting hit, being bumped, being touched. So Me personally, I grew up playing ball where it was physical. You know, I'm an '80s baby. I grew up playing AAU ball in the '90s in Chicago. Everything was physical. We pressed, we ran hard. It was if you were 6 foot, you was a power forward or a center. If you were 6'5", you definitely a center. So you played hard. Everything was physical. If you notice any kid that come out of Chicago that played in the league or played in college, they tough. So me, I don't mind the physical play. I enjoy it actually. But I'm having these questions, and I did this episode because I want to hear what the people think. We're the consumers. We're the ones turning in and turning on. We're the ones going through the gate into the stadiums to watch the games. And I think yesterday when I was watching that Detroit Pistons and that Timberwolves game, and that altercation kicked off, I heard the crowd roaring. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I heard them happy to see the interaction between two teams that was having a problem with one another. And it felt good to hear it. So, in my opinion, I think starting to feel like that the fans want to see more physicality, less three pointers, um, less one on one play. Because when the game is physical and you can't get around your player or you scared to go to that hole, you're going to pass the ball. You're going to drive and kick, which means it's going to be an open man. We want to see more post game. Where the big man's at? Get down in that post. You know, we don't. You rarely see a big man do a post move anymore. There was a time a big man got down there. He had a drop step. He can hook from. He can go in the middle and hook. He had a spin, or he just bagged you down and overpowered you. We lost that, right? We lost that in the sense of everybody want to shoot threes. The analytics are telling the players and the coaches that more three pointers equals more wins. Well, what about when they're not falling? Right? No more mid-range game. Nobody's playing the mid-range like the Rip Hamiltons. I made a living off the mid-range because the three-pointer is so pushed to the young kids. You go to a young AAU game, all you're going to see is them chucking it. Everybody three. NBA allow a little more hand checking, a little more physicality. The college game, they'll adapt that same playbook. Then it'll trickle down to high school. Then it'll trickle down to grade school. Right. So now the kids that's coming up in grade school, going to high school, going to college, possibly going to the league, they'll be prepared for their mentality. Mentality will be prepared to play that way when they make it to the next level. Every level that they go to, they'll be prepared. So I just wanted to see what the people think. I want to know what y'all think about what would you do if you were the commissioner or you was on the board of directors of the NBA and sit down with the owners and kind of go over what every year they have these big conferences with the owners and the board of directors and everybody, and they got rule changes or they implement something or take away something, vice versa. And I was listening to Perk, and Perk saying they they're thinking about bringing the handshake back. And so I was thinking long and hard about it, and I know what I would love to see. I want to see it. I want to see you go to the hole, get your shot block, and hit that flow. I want you. You can't just go around the player. He can give you a little nudge. I want to see that. I don't mind players showing emotion. A lot of people I was kind of hearing some of the old heads like Shannon and Stephen A. kind of, oh man, the Detroit Pistons and Big Isaiah Stewart. You know, he's an old school player. He plays physical, and some people like Dylan Brooks. Some people turned off by players like that play pretty physical, talk a little trash, got a little edge. Draymond Greens. But we need more of those. Those are the guys that push the league forward because those are the characters that people either like or love, right? So you need a villain sometimes and a hero. And those guys are the villains, which is okay. Dennis Rodman was a villain. You know, he was one of the villains of the league. And it worked out for him. And it's working out for those three. So that was just my take on this episode of All Things Q, the sports edition. Just trying to chime in. Hit me up. If you like what I'm saying, leave a comment. If you don't, leave a comment. Either way, talk to your boy. Let me know what you think. And until next time, peace.